My son drove me down.
Nice, you get to have lunch in town.
Yeah. So,
Actually, there's a rocket salad that is at the cafeteria today. So welcome back, everybody. And we are here with Judge Tomasi. Tim, welcome. And
Welcome.
we are going to be, are we getting anybody else? Is Petra joining us?
She's not able to be here today.
Okay.
No, she's on vacation.
Okay, lucky her.
Shit.
So we are here to look at 6A through C. Is that right? And these were promulgated. Again, we're going to have, puts us in an objecting mode. So why don't we, Tim, it's yours. Why don't you take it away and update us?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Senator Clarkson and Representative Rachelson and the members of the committee. It's always an honor to be here. I join you in your sadness at the missing seat.
Yes, we began. We are really missing Dick.
Yeah, he was one of the first times in the late 90s I testified in the legislature. He showed me some kindness. I was always grateful for that. So last time I was here, we did a comprehensive set of changes that we went through. The committee had no concerns other than Representative Lalonde had a concern about one of the 6B, the language in 6B and in the reporter's notes, which he found confusing. And while it wasn't an objection, he suggested that we look at it at that particular stage. It had already been through the promulgation process and it was at the Supreme Court. But I tended to agree that the introductory language, specifically with regard to 6B, was confusing, and I thought that we should try to remedy that. So I did pull together a hasty committee meeting, and then we voted online to recommend a change. And since I think it was ultimately a stylistic change, we were able to get it in front of the Supreme Court.
Oh, great.
And they approved it. And so the change, following on Representative Lalonde's concerns that we came up with was basically to drop one sentence from the exception, the beginning, the introductory sentence to 6B that used to be there, which said the exceptions to public access involve a type of case, a record, information, or a record and part of the information within it as specified in these exemptions. We simply deleted that, and basically the first line now just says the public does not have access to the following judicial branch records, colon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we made a corresponding change to the reporter's notes. Simply, it used to say the introductory language to 6B is amended, but since we no longer change that, it just now says there are 3 main categories of exemptions, and it describes that there are 3 main categories have to do with, it's either going to be a court record, it's going to be a case record from a sealed type case, a confidential case, or a specific record, or a part of or information within a record that's going to be confidential.
Right. Thank you, Martin, as always. This is why we like being included and not having to only object, but we like the period where we can. Although that was an objection, as I recall. So thank you. Martin, are you satisfied? Oh my God, you got the thumbs up, Tim.
Oh, good. You guys are behind me. It's a little scary.
Well, or you could view it that Martin has your back.
Yes.
Martin and Barbara and Tristan have your back. So that is always good for a judge to have somebody,
There we go.
I would then say we don't on one's, we don't need to vote on this. We just simply need to say thank you, I think. Is that right? Yeah, Emily's confirming. We just need to thank you.
Sounds good.
Accepting Martin's comment and acting on it and changing things to make it simpler, clearer, easier to understand.
We're all in the same boat.
And we all appreciate clarity.
Yes.
And even rowing together.
That's right.
In the same direction.
It's always nice.
Yes, we like joint meetings for that reason. It's our unicameral moment when we have joint meetings, right? Okay, that went over big time.
Someone said we need more than a moment.
We get to
Allison.
experience what it would be like to be in a unicameral body.
Or Maine. Yes.
Sorry, what, Martin?
Or Maine, where even though they're unicameral, they have joint committees, I've learned.
Oh, really? That's very effective. Whew.
Yes, definitely. So anyway,
Interesting. So I know we are now done, but I do believe that we never sort of open ourselves up for new business. Is there anything new that I mean, we've identified actually new things during the course of our conversation. The AI update on the AI committee and our discussion of our timing on promulgation. I think Tanya has a question and a piece of new business for us to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Chair, you may remember some of our conversation around licensure and immigration status. And one of the things that came up in that conversation was the potential of changing the judicial rules to allow someone to become an attorney regardless of immigration status. And I just wonder what the status of that conversation is.
Oh.
Yes, because this came out of our Senate
It did
GovOps
come up.
discussion.
Right.
So we're a little slightly ahead of that game because we had this discussion in Senate GovOps.
Yeah, in all honesty, I don't know. I don't normally attend attorney licensing rules. They just had their PRB annual meeting though. I'm more than happy. Mike Kennedy is the person I connected with beforehand. He had surgery recently, so he's out.
How's he doing?
Good. He's
Great.
doing really well.
Great.
He's home.
Great. Oh,
Yeah, so making great progress, but I apologize. I don't have anything current, but I can certainly follow up with him and I remember that we learned that under the present rules, there needed to be clarification.
yes,
Okay.
Yeah, that is what we learned and that we didn't want to do it in law because of separation of powers.
Can you one more time just tell me people with what status?
So this would be a change to the rules. So we passed a bill that would allow anyone under OPR or teachers or nurses to gain licensure regardless of immigration status. And we wanted to include attorneys in that, but realized it started to breach on being a separation of powers issue because that's under the judiciary. So we had talked about allowing the judiciary to change those rules.
and Tara testified.
Yes.
Yeah, and it had to do with, Emily, immigrants who were lawyers in their countries, whether or not they could become lawyers in this country. And actually, if you recall that female Afghan judge who now lives in the Burlington area. And I know speaking with Mike then, because there's presently a requirement that you be a US citizen. And part of it had to do with where their training was and whether or not it was a common law based training or not. It's coming back to me a bit.
Yeah.
But they were going to look into it, kind of to explore, because it wasn't something that had been, on their radar to review. That's what it has to do with.
Do you think we could put this also on our September agenda?
Oh, that would be good
And
time.
just
because then
Take it,
yeah.
because then if we're lucky enough to be reelected, we can just take this up
Yeah.
again in January.
Well, good, but I
I
have
would
three
also
things.
wonder, too, are there any implications regarding federal law and federal practice in doing that?
Right.
Okay, to practice in the federal court.
Is slightly different. You could practice maybe that's one of the explorations, is it? Which courts could you practice in, how,
Yeah.
what could we do to make it?
Well, there's also the issue of, does this have any implications regarding appeal rights to federal courts? A defendant, for example, who is represented by an attorney who is not here legally.
If the attorney's not here.
Well,
Are there any implications? I don't know.
it's not illegal. Whether they may have a green card. They may be here legally. It's not.
But
the implications.
the law, at least some of the things that GovOps has talked about, does not deal with immigration status particularly.
Right, because the other conversation we had in government operations, particularly around attorneys, would be perhaps a DACA, someone who, one of the dreamers who went to law school here, but actually as an infant was brought here, not through the process that is typically accepted.
If I recall correctly, they did have examples of persons in that category who had.
Yes. I'm just forgetting her name, a woman who's on.
I know exactly who you're thinking of, but she actually did
Or both
testify that
also.
it's almost impossible in those instances
Yeah.
for people to get barred.
But for people who have green card status and who are on a path to citizenship, it may well. So I think it's worth further exploring because
That would be very good.
our workforce situation would cry out for more of us,
Right,
getting more people engaged.
Certainly what we heard in judiciary, there's a huge need for more lawyers.
yes.
Thank goodness. Vermont Law School is thrilled by that news.
So we'll put it at the September meeting. and get
Right,
a
let's check,
report
let's just,
on the status.
Thank you,
perfect.
Terry.
Sure, thank you for
Right.
bringing it up, because I honestly hadn't.
No, I,
Discussed it with him since, and, but I know that they were going to, once they learned about it, it was something that they were going to look into. So.
I committed in Senate GovOps to following up because I sit on this committee, so.
right, no, I, yes, well, two of us do and one of us remembered. So, thank you for remembering. So I think with that, any other comments from committee members, or we will look probably for a meeting in early September, if that's okay with you guys. And have a lovely rest of the day. Stay cool. And thank you so much for all the work that's represented in these rules. It's really, I know, a huge amount of work with lots of people.